Hello, welcome to Mythos Histories. I am your narrator. We have all heard the story archetype of the hero's journey, where an unknown person hears the call to a venture, denies it, etc., etc. But what if that was propaganda? What if the hero had help from the shadows and didn't know it? Two men are walking across the town square. One was a regular height and seemed well built under his cloak. The other was taller, skinnier, with his slick back hair graying at the temples. The market seems to be well, the shorter one tells the taller one. Indeed, good for us. A small boy takes an apple from the cart and runs off. The cart keeper yells for the guards and takes off after him. The taller man takes an apple as they walk by. The shorter one pats him on the back. Come, I have an idea for more than apples. He takes off running and the taller man follows. They follow the cart keeper who is following the boy. The guards come from nowhere and grab the boy. The cart keeper and the taller man stops. The other man doesn't and runs into the guard. Watch it, fool. Do you want the lash? The man starts straightening the guard's garments. My apologies, sir. I was focused on the boy and didn't see you. Again, my apologies. The cart keeper points at the boy. He stole some of my wares. I want him lashed. The taller man steps forward. Guards, if I may, I would like to pay for the apple. Apple? The guard asks. The cart keeper starts waving his arms around. Yes, he stole from me. I want him lashed. The guard lets go of the boy and looks at the taller man. Pay the man. The cart keeper yells. What? I want him lashed. The guard looks at the cart keeper now. We won't waste our time with a stolen apple. Waste our time again and we will lash you. The guards walk off. The cart keeper tries to take back his apple from the boy. The taller man puts a hand on his shoulder and puts out the other with a gold coin in his palm. Here is your money, my friend. Go back while you still have wares on your cart. The cart keeper leaves fuming. The shorter man laughs at the boy and whispers, If you are going to steal, make sure you don't get caught. He winks and sends the boy on his way. The taller man crosses his arms. Kev, saver of whelps. Tell me you accomplished more than that. Kev pulls out a set of keys out of his cloak. Well, Lucius the Doubtful, I did. Seems a stupid guard misplaced his keys. Lucius raises an eyebrow. Well done. Kev bows. Let's see what these unlock. Yes, let's, Lucius replies, smiling. It is pre-dawn and Kev and Lucius meet at the stables. Kev holds up a bag. What did your half of the keys unlock? Lucius holds up his bag. The Countess and Queen were kind enough to donate some jewels and gold to us. You? Kev looks down. Sadly, I did not get royal jewels or gold. He raises his head and holds up the bag again. However, the guards were kind enough to donate 6 months of their salaries. Lucius nods and slightly sticks out his lower lip. This kingdom is most kind. We must remember that and come back. Kev bows. We should come back. Now let us get back to this calm place by getting enough food and ale to fill us. Perhaps even some women. Shall we go to our room in the tavern? Lucius swings his bag over his shoulder with a clang. We shall. Lead the way, my friend. Both men tossed their keys into a large hay pile and went back to the tavern and indeed got their fill, including women. The next day, Kev and Lucius were walking through the market, getting supplies for their travels. Word had spread about the daring theft the night before. The king had ordered a search of the entirety of the castle and town. The suspects, if found, were to be put to death. In fact, the guard's search is what woke up Kev and Lucius. After rudely barging in the door, the guards woke them up. The guards demanded Kev to put clothes on, but Kev just looked at him and said, You aren't guest. I didn't invite you. You can stare at my cock all day for all I care. The guards tossed the room and found nothing. They gave a weak apology and left. Kev followed and stood out in the hallway watching them leave. He turned to a woman down the hall looking at him. What are you looking at, woman? Anything interesting? He said, smiling and wiggling his eyebrows. The woman hissed and slammed the door shut. How rude, Kev said as he smiled and shut his own door. The men approached the cart from the day before. The man waved his finger and yelled, "No, you leave. You allow lawlessness." Both of them put their hands on the apples on the cart. "Please, sir, we haven't had breakfast yet," Lucius pleaded, which was a lie. They had ham, eggs, and bread just before they left for the market. "No," the man said. Kev sighed. "As you wish, good sir." They leave, and as they walk, they each pull an apple out of the sleeves of their cloaks. "Breakfast dessert," Kev says before biting into his apple. "It is the small things," Lucius replies before biting into his. They gather supplies, load up, and hide their stolen wares, including the riches they hid behind the boards of the ceiling of the room. They were walking their horses out of the stable as commotion broke out across the way. Being of the curious sort, they walked over to take a look. Surrounded by a crowd was a girl. From what Lucius could tell, she was in her early 20s or so. She had black hair, and her eyes were far more narrow than the people here. Add in her complexion, she was originally from someplace more exotic. Kev and Lucius took up some spots at the back of the crowd. The girl continued her speech. How long? How long must we be crushed by the boot of the king? Few of us were brought here by choice. We clean, we cook, we work until we collapse. Do they care? The crowd answered with a resounding no. We are treated like animals. No, we are treated worse. At least horses get fed and tended to if they get hurt. Many of the people in the crowd nodded their heads. This bullshit again, Lucius said before Kev elbowed him in the side. The girl continued. King Horth has only taken the throne not even 10 years ago. What will it be like in 10 years from now? 20? Do you want your children or their children to suffer a fate worse than this? Once again, the crowd shouted no. Lucius turns to Kev. That's our cue. Let's go before this wench does something stupid and gets these idiots hurt. Lucius turns to leave, but Kev grabs his arm. Let's help her. So she can overthrow the king and then become corrupted and then become the oppressor, Lucius says. No, look at the look in her eyes. She will be different than King Horth. No, she won't. King Horth had a similar look, and look upon the land. This is becoming a nightmare. Even more of a reason to help her. What do we have to lose? Our heads, and more importantly our riches, Lucius said. Look at these people. We must make this right. No. Don't bullshit me. Things have gotten boring again. Let's do this. I know you've become bored again. Tell me you're not. I'm good, Lucius says. I know you're lying. Tell me, what will it take for your help? You want to pay me? Lucius asked. Yes. How much? Lucius thinks for a moment. I want the jade of the dragon. Kev grabs his arm and hoarsely whispers. Do you know what I went through to get that? Almost lost my hand in one of the traps surrounding it. Well, how much is helping this girl worth to you? Kev scowls and finally says, deal. Help me and the stone is yours. Deal, Lucius answered, smiling. The men nod and separate. As the girl continues to talk to the crowd, they walk among it. All this pain and suffering, we have nothing to show for it. The king and his kind benefit from the work that breaks our backs. Kev, with his cloaked hood up, talks in a low voice. She has a point. We are in hell. A man to his side slaps his back. True words have never been spoken, brother. Kev looks back and nods. Things must change. Lucius, with his hood up too, talks as he walks in another part of the crowd. Finally, someone with the bravery to speak about the injustices happening to us. A woman behind him speaks. It never ends. It only gets worse. The people around her nod in agreement. The girl is now screaming to the crowd. We must take back our life. We must fight for decency. Lucius speaks again to no one in particular. such beauty and strength, like the flowers she wears in her hair. Her beauty and strength could save us all. A man looks back at the front towards the girls and yells, "We are with you! You are our Flower!" The crowd roars in agreement. Flower the girl seems stunned and uncomfortable with such a response. In that moment, the guards rush the square. "Get back to your homes. The king has outlawed public gatherings such as this." Lucius could hear Kev across the way. "Get fucked!" Lucius picks up a stone from the ground and throws it at the head of the guardsman. The rock made a ping sound and almost knocks him off his horse. It is then when the crowd attacks. Lucius and Kev move among the crowd, tripping guards, stealing weapons such as daggers off of their belts. During the melee, Lucius, out of the corner of his eye, sees Flower cowering near the wall. When a guard goes to attack her, many help protect her and kill the guard. The fight itself lasted 20 minutes. When it was done, the guards were dead and people were celebrating. Kev was panting with his hands on his knees when he heard Lucius somewhere in the mass of people. "Keep on! We can take the castle!" Son of a bitch, Kev thought as he took off running. He ran down the twisty side streets and alleys, trying to keep ahead of the moving crowd of people. He jumps and lifts himself over the wall separating the castle grounds and the town. He ran along the wall keeping a low profile. When he got near the gate, he pulls out a dagger he stole from a guard and slices the rope in one swift swing. Above the gate was a large wooden plank with large barrels on it. When the rope gets cut, it all falls and crushes the guards behind the wrought iron gate, prepared to fight all the invaders. Kev runs up and spins the wheel, opening the gate. Then he runs back and dives behind some shrubbery. The crowd rushes in the castle grounds without slowing down. Within 2 hours, the castle fell with the death of all the guards. The attack ended when Flower stood above a kneeling and restrained king. "You will pay for your crimes." The king spits and looks out among the crowd defiantly. "You cannot do this. I am your king. Free me at this moment." Flower nods and the man walks over and stabs the king in the back. The crowd cheers when he pulls out an axe and takes off his head. Flower smiles at the crowd as it roars with approval. Kev and Lucius find each other and stand at the back of the crowd. "You could have warned me about the castle attack." "I was caught up in the moment," Lucius says, smirking. "Uh-huh," Kev replies. Lucius turns to his friend. "I hope you're right about this. This will work. I have a good feeling about her." Kev and Lucius were walking on the castle grounds the next morning. "You look disturbed," Kev says. "Something's bothering me. I saw a bird fly out of the rookery. Several, actually. I just hope they escaped during the melee and not sent out on purpose." "You think it's possible a word was sent out?" "We have to entertain the possibility." Up ahead was an old man, sitting against the wall and reading a book. Lucius turns to Kev. "I'll be back." Kev nods and heads toward the market. Lucius approaches the old man. "Excuse me, what are you reading?" The old man looks up and smiles. "Just a little history and tactics." "I see. I thought you looked like a learned and wise man. Now I know why." "Well, thank you, sir," the old man says as he nods his head. "You should approach Flower. She is new and could use someone with your wisdom." I'm sure she has people and has no need for an old scholar like me." "No, she doesn't. She has no people. She needs a military advisor, political, domestic, and someone to advise when dealing with other kingdoms. This will not be done by force only. You know that. She will need alliances. You can coordinate all of it. If you don't rise to occasion, who will? She needs you." The scholar strokes his beard and thinks about it for a moment. "What you say is true. I can see you are a learned man yourself. I will go offer my services." "Good man," Lucius says and leaves. He walks and ends up at the top of the wall. As he walks through a tower and out onto the wall again, an arrow flies past his head and hits the stone. "Damn it all," he says as he falls to the stone floor. Lucius pops his head up and looks out. On the horizon was an army marching towards the castle. Lucius turns and runs back into the tower. Down the steps he runs, and when he enters the courtyard, he yells, "Attack! We are under attack!" The people in the area run to the wall. Lucius takes off and looks for Kev. He finally finds him by the stables. "What's going on?" Lucius points in the direction of the army. "We are under attack. An army is at our walls." "How?" "The birds were just released yesterday." "I don't think they made it yet. For an army that size to show up here and now, this was been in the works for a while." "Damn it. Let's take a look." They both run to the wall. They climb a tower and go to one of the windows. Kev pulls out a telescope and puts it to his eye. After a moment, he puts it down and looks at Lucius. "We are in bigger trouble than what we thought." "Why?" "Look yourself," Kev says, handing over the telescope. Lucius takes it and looks out. Kev folds his arms. "The catapults are on their way, and they should be here by morning." Kev was wrong about the catapults. They got there around midnight. The army set them up and set up tents to rest. Two hooded figures slip out of the castle walls. They nod and take off in different directions. They had to be careful. Not only did they have to stay unseen from the army, but all the guards on the wall. Each figure ran to the opposite sides of the catapult line. A dog barks, but its barking suddenly stops. The hours pass. On occasion, a random guard protecting the catapults would disappear. Just before the sun started to rise above the horizon, a figure runs and disappears at the wall, near where the river goes under it. A half hour later, a second figure runs from the enemy encampment and disappears like the first. Lucius is standing on a flat rock in the river under the castle arms folded. Kev walks into the torchlight. "Where have you been?" Lucius asks sternly. "I had an opportunity and I took it. The army will have a second surprise tomorrow." Lucius grunts. Kev smacks his arm. "Come on. We may have an hour before the attack. Let's grab something to eat." An hour later, Flower is at the wall, the old man on one side and a general on the other. They watch as a few men from the army approach, flying a white flag apiece. Lucius and Kev were near the wall, close enough to hear what was being said. "Who's in charge here?" the general from the other army asked. Flower steps forward. "I am." "Why are you here?" "A woman. How interesting," the general says. His men around him laugh. "Why are you here?" Flower asks again. "Conquest. The former king has cheated us with trade. Now we will take what is ours with interest." "Is he still alive?" "No," Flower answers. "I see. Either surrender or fall beneath our blades." The old man whispers in Flower's ear. "You are interested in trade. Perhaps we could come to an understanding. Unlike the last king, I will keep my word." The general laughs. "I see few professional soldiers here. Let's be realistic. You stand no chance of defeating us. Surrender or die." Flower stands defiantly. "We did not overthrow the king just to lay down now. Leave or be swept away." The general just nods and turns his horse around and leaves. Kev turns to Lucius. "I hope we are clever as we think we are." "We will find out soon," Lucius answers. The next few moments were tense. The enemy general rallied his troops and barked out orders. All of his men looked very comfortable with the thought of violence and murder that were just minutes ahead. Flower soldiers, made out peasants, and a few guards that helped overthrow the king looked terrified at the thought of what was to come. It didn't help they were slightly outnumbered as well. Lucius turns to Kev. this could go to shit quickly, we must be ready to flee if need be. Agreed, Kev answers. They watch as the general raises his sword high in the air. All the catapults move forward. He gives the command to fire. The buckets are pulled back and soldiers start walking forward holding torches. They start to light the large boulders made out of wood. These were the first shots. They would set the castle on fire and then they would switch to rock to punch holes into the walls. It was a tried and true method used for generations. Chaos erupts. Some of the catapults break, sending the ordnance flying backwards as some of it was lightened, and they exploded, sending fire and shrapnel everywhere and setting the other wood boulders on fire along with the soldiers standing near them. All the front lines were either crushed or on fire. The rest of the invading army scattered. The general tried to contain his men and keep discipline. Lucius turns to Kev. Gods, what did you do? Kev just smiles. Remember when we tried to steal from the Emperor of Dumar? I just did the same thing to them. This side of the fence is better by far. But we did steal from the Emperor, Lucius says. We did, but that was a nasty hiccup. From above, they heard Flower's general yell, Fire! Hundreds, if not thousands, of arrows fill the sky. This wall of death slams into the enemy army. Engage! Screams the general. The castle gates fly open and Flower's army runs out. A good portion of the army on the other side was on fire still and unprepared for the attack. One of the archers runs and jumps off a fence and fires. His arrow strikes the neck of the enemy general and he falls off his horse dead. That might be the fastest I've ever seen an enemy commander killed in battle, Lucius observes. Kev just nods in agreement. They watch for a better part of an hour as Flower's army decimates the invading army. When it was over, Lucius and Kev shake hands. Well done, Kev states. Your little stunt carried the day, Lucius replies. Let's celebrate. As long as you buy the first few rounds. Wait, hold up. I carried the day. I have to buy? Lucius slaps his friend on the arm. Heavy lays the crown. Kev looks at him out the side of his eyes and smiles. They start walking towards the tavern. A couple days later, Kev is woken up by Lucius. Get up, we have to go. Why? Seems Little Flower is returning the favor and attacking the kingdom that attacked her. What? When is she leaving? In a week, maybe a week and a half. We gotta go, Kev says, tossing off his covers. Lucius and Kev sneak out on their horses. They follow the road Flower would take towards the kingdom. As they would travel, they would take turns and leave the road and scout. Finally, Lucius comes back. I found a place. Show me, Kev says. Lucius leads the way to a small clearing near a stream. In the clearing was a large rock. The rock itself had a large crack in it. Kev puts his hands in his cloak. Perfect. Lucius smiles. Let's see if this will work again. The two men went to work. Lucius pulled out an exotic-looking sword and began to add dirt and water to age it. Kev walked around the rock, and when he found the perfect spot, he started digging. The next day they were looking in the hole going underneath the rock. Does the crack go all the way through? Asked Lucius. Yes, thank the gods, we got a break. Kev went to his horse and pulled out a small metal disc and some rope. Let's see how the experiment goes, he says, smiling at Lucius. They went to work tying the rope to the ring on the back of the metal disc. Kev crawled into the hole with it. Lucius stuck the sword into the crack. Okay, Kev yelled. Lucius pulled the sword out easily out of the rock. Damnation, he muttered. That's fine, we just need to make some adjustments. The two men got back to work. One of the problems was the crack wasn't big enough. Lucius started to lengthening it with tools. Kev began digging small trenches from the hole. The next day they tried again. Lucius stuck the sword in the crack. That feels better. Further in. Okay, Kev says, crawling out of the hole. There was a click and he yells, "Do it." Lucius pulls the sword and it doesn't move. It's not moving. Excellent. Let's try the horse. They grab some pulleys and more rope. They tie the rope to the sword and then run the rope through the pulleys and finally to the horse. Yeah, Kev yells as he smacks the horse on the ass. The horse takes off but stops. It strains mightily, but the sword does not move. The two men look and smile at each other. The next couple of days, they finish the work and look upon it. Like we were never here, Lucius observes. Yes, this is some of our better work. Kev hides the small piece of rope under a rock near a tree, a small distance from the rock with the sword in it. Now the second part of the plan, Lucius says. Kev nods and they get on their horses and head back to the Kingdom of Flower. Well, Lucius does anyway. Kev heads towards the other kingdom. Just before they made it back, they ran into a moving mass of soldiers led by Flower. Lucius merged into the marching mass. Where's our Queen Flower going? Lucius asked the soldier. We are marching on the kingdom of King Horus. He attacked us, and we will raid his land and take supplies. Oh, I thought she was going to claim the sword of justice, the light of the people. Excuse me? The soldier asked. Surely you've heard of the mythical sword. It is in a rock near a stream. It is told whoever pulls it free will lead oppressed people to freedom. Oh yeah, I forgot, my apologies. Think nothing of it, my friend. The soldier nods and pulls ahead on his horse. Lucius smiles and drops back to the back of the marching soldiers. Later that night, he's eating dinner with some of the men, formerly peasants, now soldiers. Do you think Queen Flower would be worthy of pulling out the sword of justice? What are you talking about, friend? One of the men asked. Lucius tells the story again, each man paying close attention to every word. When he finishes, Lucius stands and bids them goodnight. The next day, the marching army was abuzz and talking nothing about the sword and the legend. Lucius even heard more fantastical recountings of the myth. Everything was working according to plan. Lucius even heard Flower herself heard the rumors. So when he heard they were changing directions, Lucius wasn't surprised. After a couple days, they got near the spot. Scouts were sent out and came back later that day. They had found it. Lucius went ahead and was one of the first there on the scene so he could be near the rock with a rope. When the clearing was filled, Flower walked in followed by her general and her advisor. Lucius sent her way. So this is it? Asked Flower. Yes, let's see if your destiny is our freedom, the advisor said. Lucius squatted down and fished out the rope. Flower stepped to the rock and put her foot on it. She grabbed the hilt and took a breath. Just before she pulled, the general stepped forward. My queen, allow me to go first, just in case it's a trap. Flower nodded and the general stepped forward and pulled the hilt. The sword didn't move. He nodded and gestured towards the stone. It is good. No trap here, my queen. Flower stepped forward and put a foot on the rock. She grabbed the hilt, took a breath, and when she pulled, Lucius pulled the rope. There was a small click and the sword became free from the rock with a roar from the crowd. Lucius looks across the clearing and sees Kev. Kev nods and Lucius nods back. Flower looks at the sword. Her general speaks. My queen, let me clean it and make it worthy of your hands. Flower shakes her head. No, I would do it after you teach me. As you wish, your majesty. The crowd leaves celebrating. When everybody's gone, Lucius and Kev come back. As they dig up the ropes and pulleys and the metal disc from under the rock, they talk. clever little mechanism on this disc, Kev says. Lucius looks at him. How did it go on your end? Lucius asks. Better than I thought. After the defeat of the war hero by Flower's hand, they were quite sensitive to the thought of her getting a mythical sword. Your end seemed to go well. Better than ever, Lucius answers. Kev nods, and they finish their work. When they are done, it was like they were never there. They followed the marching army with the rest of the support people, the blacksmiths, the cooks, and the like. The army stopped, and Kev looked around. What's going on? Lucius looked around. I don't know. Word quickly spread among the crowd that armies were marching toward them. It seemed the kingdom that Flower was attacking wasn't going to wait for her to show up. Shit, hissed Lucius. Flower's army spread out in formation. Okay, let's come up behind, Kev said. Lucius nods and the men run towards the woods to the side. They run through the woods, and when they get to the very end, they stop and wait. They watch a decent-sized army march towards them, Kev whispers. If they stay true to strategy, they will put their supplies near here to hide and protect them. Lucius nods and they continue watching. When the army draws near, men carry supplies near the woods out the side of Flower's army. Kev notices the bows are placed near them. When the men left to go get more supplies, Kev and Lucius run to the bows and slightly cut the strings. They were also able to cut some of the straps of the shields before they heard the men come back. They run back into the woods. That's the best we can do, Lucius says. Kev nods and they run back to Flower's army. They stood in the far back and watched. There was a meeting between the generals, and when they went back to their sides, the soldiers prepared for battle. When the armies were ready, the other armies set out their archers. Flower did the same thing. When the order was given, the other army's archers pulled back and their bowstrings broke. Flower's did not. Arrows flew into the other army's archers, killing most, if not all of them. The other army sent out soldiers, and when they collided with Flower's army, most of the shields buckled and a few of them flew off the soldiers' arms. They were massacred. With this momentum, Flower's army won the day. The battle ended with Flower taking the head of the opposing general with the sword of justice. Flower then turns their army and lifts the sword high. The sword of justice has carried the day. The army roars with approval. Later that night at camp, Lucius goes to Kev. Flower's marching on King Horsalt Castle. She is changing her plans. Kev winces at the name of the king. Of course she is. It's her destiny. It's the destiny we created for her. It's the same either way. Our cave is on the way. I demand my payment now. You can't be serious. We don't have time for this. We can, and we will go. I will hold my jade in my hand. The chances we will die will increase greatly the closer we get. You will get your payment. I am a man of my word. You know this. I do. You promised me payment. I want it now. Fine. Let's go, Kev says, getting up. The two men got on their horses and headed towards the wilds of the west. After a couple days, they came upon a waterfall in a heavily wooded area. They tied off their horses and climbed up the rock side. Hidden behind the waterfall was a cave. They stood in front of a wooden door. They each put in a key in one of the two keyholes. Together they turned the keys and opened the door. They walked into a large open area. After they lit the torches, the room revealed stone walls and two other doors and luxurious furniture sitting around. Kev went to one of the doors with another key and opened it. Lucius sat down on a throne while he waited. After a few minutes, Kev came back out with a large jade stone and handed it over. Here. Thank you, Lucius replied. He admired the stone and got up. He went to the other door and opened it with his own key. He lit some torches and the room became illuminated. This was his sanctuary and storeroom. The room was filled with chests containing jewels and gold pieces. Trophies of armor and swords were scattered about. There was even a few stuffed mythical animals scattered about. Lucius admired the jade stone one more time in the light and sat it down on a table. On his way out, he patted a stuffed dragon head on the way. "Guard my treasure," Lucius said as he locked his door and turned to Kev. "Payment has been made. Let's go." Together they walked out the door. Instead of going back to Flower's army, they headed to King Horse Kingdom. When they got to the drawbridge, they stopped among the hustle and bustle. "Did you see him when you were here?" Lucius asked. "No." "Let's go. Someone should do some scouting for Queen Flower." As they walked among the crowd, they heard whisperings of her. "She took his head clean off. She found the sword of justice. What does that mean? She will kill every man and woman here. She drinks the blood of her victims." "That's a bit much," Lucius says. "Wasn't me," Kev replied. The men looked around the square. "Doesn't seem they are too worried about Flower marching here," Lucius observes. Kev backhands Lucius's arm. "Not so fast. Look. The knights are meeting in the garrison." Lucius looks over. "So they are. I guess they are taking her seriously." Horns blow and everyone stops in the square. All turn to the castle tower next to the square. "What the hell is this?" Lucius asks. "You know what this is." He always loved attention. King Horth steps onto the balcony. He raises his hands and waits for the whispering to die down. He clears his throat and addresses the crowd. "Dear subjects, may I have your ear? Your king must address you. There have been rumors of a woman that has usurped my dear friend King Jace. This much is true. What is also true is she is on her way here to usurp me as well. This delusional woman believes I, your beloved king, is an oppressor. Is this true, my loyal subjects?" The crowd shouted no. King Horth smiles and continues. "Because the kingdom makes the smaller kingdoms supply everything. They have no idea what life is like in the smaller kingdoms," Lucius says. "Shh," Kev replies. "I know you have also heard this delusional woman Flower has found the mythical sword of the Sword of Justice. This is also just a rumor. She is not worthy of finding such a weapon. It is just her ragtag army made out of peasants just like you. They are not the trained killers and warriors like my army." "Pompous ass," Lucius hisses. "He wasn't always like this," Kev says with his head down. "I will destroy this poor excuse of a queen. When she draws near, there is no need for panic. We will take the usual measures and her army will lay dead outside of our moat." King Horth raises his arms and the crowd roars. He waves to the crowd and disappears back into the castle. "He has come a long way since the nights he would cry in the horses' stables," Lucius sneers. "So have we. Work is to be done before Flower gets here." Kev turns, but Lucius puts a hand on his shoulder. "I know this is hard on you, but none of this is your fault." "No, it's our fault. Don't discount your involvement in his ascent." "I don't. But after he won the crown from Queen Macy, what he does after that is out of our control. We both thought he would make a good leader. We were wrong. That's all." "Is this why you hesitated in helping Flower?" "Yes. We helped one tyrant. Why take a chance to help a possible other one? This time it will be different." "Will it?" asked Lucius. "What if that much power corrupts whoever takes the throne? We have to hope it won't." "We will see, won't we?" Lucius says as the men walk off. Hours after they meet up in the dark corner of the courtyard. "What have you found?" asked Lucius. "Nothing has changed. He has changed nothing. His army still has the same weaknesses." Lucius sighs, the product of being surrounded by yes men. Kev nods and they split up to do their work in the night. In the next couple days, Flower's army appeared over the horizon. When it got near, her general approached the walls. King Horth, general rolled outside to meet him. Kev and Lucius snuck near the wall to try to hear. Queen Flower wants to speak to King Horth. He does not want to speak to the likes of her. Why would he want to speak to a peasant? Queen Flower wants King Horth to stop his high demand for food and the like. That would stop his enabling of the slave trade. King Horth does not give in to the demands of peasants. Very well then, Queen Flower will show no mercy. King Horth will listen to her die screaming. The generals nod and went back to where they came. Lucius turns to Kev. Seems diplomacy has failed. It seems it has. That night, two figures escaped the castle and ran across the large field, dropping to the ground when the full moon moved from behind the clouds. One figure went to the encampment with the regular people supporting the army. The other figure went into the officers' section. The hooded figure snuck behind the officers' tents. When he got to the largest and most elaborate tent, the figure pulled a small sack out of his pouch and tossed it into a fire nearby. A large blue flame shot up into the air. When the guards became distracted and ran to the fire to investigate, the figure snuck into the large tent. The figure snuck slowly into the bed containing the sleeping general. The figure puts a hand on General's mouth. The general wakes with a start. "Shh," Kev says in a hoarse whisper aided by the wrap over his lower face. "Don't move. I'm a friend. Listen, I don't have much time. I'm very familiar with King Horth's tactics. He favors heavy cavalry almost exclusively. Use the dragon's teeth with the archers to nullify this. That will pave your way to victory greatly. You understand?" The general nods. "Do not allow your ego to annoy me. Queen Flower will be killed if you allow that to happen. Also, King Horth doesn't place any importance on infrastructure. There is a sewer grate at the castle walls by an old oak tree. It is rusty and weak. Send men in there and have them open the gates during the battle, or you will never get in." Kev pulls out a knife, slices the back wall of the tent, and runs out. He sneaks out of the officers' part of the encampment, takes off his wrap, and goes to where Lucius is by a campfire. Lucius looks at him when Kev nods. "We've done what we can. Now we just wait." Kev nods again and sits by the fire. The morning broke, and after breakfast, the army took position outside of the castle. King Horth's army marched out, including the hundreds and hundreds of armored knights on very large horses. Many looked stunned in Flower's army except the general. Kev and Lucius could only watch from the back with the support people. They did move to the side to get a better angle. King Horth's army blew attack trumpets and the heavy cavalry rushed Flower's army. The general gave no command and just watched. The heavy cavalry got closer and suddenly the general yelled and large wooden spikes shot out of the ground at an angle. The heavy cavalry was too close to stop and the horses slammed into the spikes, and at the same time the archers let their arrows fly. The knights became pincushions, each being felled with several arrows. Chaos erupted with the rest of the army, as it seemed they were distracted. The general gave command and the rest of the army attacked. They finished off the rest of the knights. As King Horth's army counterattacked, the gate rose up and opened. Suddenly, King Horth's army was being attacked on both sides. The battle lasted an hour total. The final moments was Queen Flower running with her sword out, encouraging her troops as they ran into the gate and onto the courtyard. It ended when Flower defeated King Horth in a sword fight in the throne room. She walked out onto the courtyard balcony and held King Horth's head up high. Her people cheered as King Horth's people looked on in shock. She looked out among the people. Then she began to speak as Lucius and Kev looked up at her. We have won the day. This will be a dawn of a new era. As queen of the land, I must pass justice unto our enemies. I've decided to turn King Horth's subjects here into slaves. They have benefited from our backbreaking work now. They will know what it's like to do this work. I know this sounds hypocritical, but only the subjects here will be enslaved. The ones that looked down on us and laughed. God, Kev said, rubbing his eyes. It starts again. Have we failed again? Maybe, Lucius said as he looked on, a small child pickpocketing among the crowd. Perhaps we should do this differently. Take a more active role. Train our champion from childhood. Kev looks at the boy. Perhaps we should do that. Many of us get success. Sometimes we feel we did it alone. Are we sure about that? Most likely, we have gotten help from the shadows. Think about that the next time you are victorious.